Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. You are a Bodhisattva of the earth, as predicted by Shakyamuni's sermon on the Lotus Sutra. Wearing my summer robes. You want to comment on them? Like, dislike? Let me know what you think. I'm more comfortable. So that's all I'll say about that. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. While you're here, while we're starting out, like, subscribe, right? A reminder, as you see all over the video, at the beginning and end of the video anyway, links to threefoldlotus.com, a resource site, the bookstore, the mandala store, the audio podcast. Sign up for those. We're going to continue with the treatise on all phenomena as ultimate reality, the Shoho Jisso Sho. And this part is called Bodhisattvas Who Emerged from the Earth. It's about us. Let's hear what Nichiren says. When people are praised by others, they are determined to accomplish anything, no matter how difficult it may be. Right? A little bit of praise goes a long way. We're samsaric beings. We're designed to express ourselves maximally. We're kind of show-offs. But we're also, this is the mechanism of self-reward. Remember, we've talked about this. I've certainly talked about this. That the very engine of reality is the energy to be. That's so strong, witnessed by being, that with a little bit of praise, that's all we need to manifest our maximal potential. Conversely, we're quite sensitive. And without praise, and certainly with the opposite of praise, we can easily be deterred. And that's a problem. But praise, well, such determination stems from words of praise. Those who were born in the latter age of degeneration, you and I, and try to spread the Lotus Sutra, will encounter three kinds of enemies, obstacles, people or things or situations that will get in the way of our praiseworthy behavior, of our Buddhahood, who will exile and even kill them. So he's speaking of his own day, isn't he? But we're no different today. However, Shakyamuni Buddha will shelter in his robe those who endure the difficulties in spreading the Dharma, and protective deities will serve the practitioners of the Dharma, lending shoulders of support or carrying deities will serve the practices of the Dharma, lending shoulders of support or carrying them on their backs. In other words, if you have a strength, a determination, a conviction of practice, Shakyamuni Buddha's teaching of Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, self-realizing Buddhahood, then the very fabric of the universe will support you. You will be able to go through what normally would be obstacles, great and small. You'll be able to endure them, see right past them, and overcome them. Praised as mighty roots of goodness and the great leaders of all the people by Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha of many treasures, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout the universe, the 7 generations of heavenly gods, the 5 generations, all of the forces of the universe that you could enumerate that are talked about throughout all of the teachings of Buddhism. All those forces, universal sage Bodhisattva, great sun, Manjushri, sun and moon, they were able to endure infinite difficulties, right? Look at the universe. Look at the instantiation of all potential from the moments of the creation, of the instantiation of this universe. Look at all the great forces, temperatures, heat, pressures, exploding into this universe. Those are all Myoho Renge Kyo. They are all the forces within life. They are life. It is the common person who, you and I, when praised, is determined to such an extent that there is no regard for personal loss, and when accused, acts without knowing personal defeat. They're just words being thrown at us to deter us. Why should they deter us? We're doing the maximal of what life is. We're not easily deterred. Whatever happens to you, have a firm conviction and keep yourself as a practicer of the Lotus Sutra and join the ranks of my followers, of my example, of my doctrine of the Lotus Sutra Buddhism, of Shakyamuni. As long as you agree with me, you will be one of the Bodhisattvas who emerged from the earth. And if you are determined to be a Bodhisattva of the earth, there is no doubt that you have been a disciple of the original Buddha from the remotest past. And here it says Shakyamuni Buddha. It's wrong. This is the timeless Buddha he's referring to. The Emerging from the Earth chapter states, quote, I have been teaching and converting these people ever since the eternal past, Buddha. Those who spread the 5 characters of Myoho Renge and Kyo in the latter age of degeneration should not make a distinction between males and females. For it would be difficult to chant the Daimoku unless they were all Bodhisattvas of the earth. So I know some of you are maybe seizing on the translation here and saying, oh, so if you're not following Nichiren, then you're not a Bodhisattva of the earth. And I will correct you. What Nichiren is saying is if you do this, if you practice the Lotus Sutra, and you become a diligent practitioner, a practicer of the Lotus, of Myoho Renge Kyo, then you are embodying your nature, your true nature, as a Bodhisattva of the earth. But that doesn't mean everyone else isn't a Bodhisattva of the earth. They haven't awakened to that. Because as you know, Buddhahood is innate. It's in everything, on down to the last speck of space dust. Everything in this universe is Myoho Renge Kyo. Everything in this universe is life, is Buddha, an expression of Buddha. And so every sentient mind on this planet is a future Buddha, a future Bodhisattva, Bodhisattvas of the earth. Many of them are ignorant of that. But as we've read just recently, Nichiren quoting Shakyamuni, if you share but a phrase of the Lotus Sutra with one other person, individually, intimately, with this conviction, they too become bodhisattvas of the earth, because you've enlivened that inextricable innate nature in them. If not immediately, then soon thereafter, their curiosity will get the best of them, because you will have awakened this. They too are bodhisattvas of the earth. Every person you meet has the potential to instantiate their true nature, Buddha. That's a different way of looking at other people, right? I mean, we can see people committing really evil acts, disturbed acts. But even so, no matter how horrific their actions, they have Buddhahood in them, right? Buddhahood exists in the raging, worst hell realm a human could be in. We are all bodhisattvas of the earth. Establish your fame as the practicer of the Lotus Sutra. Interesting word, fame. It just means your reputation, your renowned, how people know you, right? Not fame from I'm sure they didn't have a version of burlesque or Hollywood or celebrity of that nature in 13th century Japan, all right? The samurai didn't get together and create musicals, as we know them anyway. So, at first, only I, Nichiren, started chanting the Daimoku. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. That's the Daimoku. Not Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. That's what makes it the Daimoku. The profundity of the teachings of self-realization are nothing if not expressed by the self. Namu. Buddhahood. But then 2, 3, then 100 people gradually began to chant it. This will continue in the future. Isn't this what emerging from the earth means? Yeah. When an innumerable number of people emerge from the earth and this wonderful Dharma spreads extensively, there will be no mistake. Just as a shooting arrow never misses the earth, Japan will be filled with people chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. You should therefore establish your fame, your renown, your reputation as the practicer of the Lotus Sutra, and devote your life to it. Nichiren just showed us how to propagate this Buddhism. When Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha of many treasures, and many other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas from all over the universe gathered at the assembly up in the sky above Mount Sacred Eagle, what Shakyamuni Buddha and the Buddha of many treasures agreed upon was solely for the sake of perpetually spreading the Lotus Sutra in the latter age of degeneration. This is what the whole sermon is about. When the Buddha of many treasures, who had already been inside the stupa, shared his seat with the Shakyamuni Buddha, what was decided by the two Buddhas as generals standing under the flag of Myoho Renge Kyo was nothing but the truth. It was a meeting to help us, living beings, achieve Buddhahood. Although I was not at the scene, Nichiren, I have no doubt about it when I read the sutra. It's inclusive. However, I may have been there, but I don't remember it simply because I'm an ordinary man. I say again, Nichiren constantly reminds us of his humility. I'm just a man, just like you. I've chosen a life of study and scholarship, and here's what I have found. And yet I can see clearly in the present time that I am a practicer of the Lotus Sutra. Moreover, it is determined that I will surely visit the practicing place of the Buddha in the future. Considering the past according to these things, I may have been at the assembly up in the sky because the past, present, and future are not separated from one another. The past and the future are just constructs of the present. That's a tough one to really understand, but the more you study, the more obvious that will become. There is nothing but this moment. We live moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. This next part, Nichiren does not cry, but tears keep falling. So what could he be introducing us to here? Thus thinking of my situation, I am an exiled man, but my joy is immeasurable. See, I'll remind you, he's writing from Sado, his third major attempt to kill him, because the idea of sending him to Sado was a bleak landscape with very little protection against the weather, very little food to scrounge. He was meant to die there. I shed tears of joy, and I also shed tears of sorrow, right? He's a man. He wants to help others. He wants to teach this ultimate teaching of self-Buddhahood, and he finds himself in moments of death, in a place that should be his burial ground, separated from everyone, exiled. Tears are common to good and evil. As 1,000 arhats shed tears while remembering the Buddha, and Bodhisattva Manjushri chanted Myoho Renge Kyo, one of the 1,000 arhats, Venerable Ananda, replied, quote, "Thus I heard." The other 999 arhats also wept, and using tears as water for ink, wrote, quote, "Thus have I heard," and Myoho Renge Kyo above it. Now I, Nichiren, am shedding tears in the same manner. How unfathomable is enlightenment. How precious is this moment that I can even conceive of the thought of enlightenment, and experiencing it is overwhelming beyond any other human experience, right? I find myself in such a circumstance because I spread the 5 or 7 character daimoku of Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. It was because I had heard that Shakyamuni Buddha and the Buddha of many treasures have left the Lotus Sutra for the sake of Japan and all the people in the future. Tears keep falling when I think of the current unbearable hardships, but I cannot stop tears of joy when I think of obtaining Buddhahood. Birds and insects chirp without shedding tears. I, Nichiren, do not cry, but tears keep falling. These tears are shed not for worldly matters, but solely for the sake of the Lotus Sutra. Therefore, they could be called tears of nectar. It is said in the Nirvana Sutra, when people part from their parents, brothers, wife, children, or relatives, they shed more tears than the water of 4 great oceans, but not a teardrop for the Buddha Dharma. Becoming a practicer of the Lotus Sutra is brought about by a long causal relationship from the past, from the very nature of life, yeah? Even among trees and plants, some of them are carved into Buddhist statues because of their long karmic relationship. Some trees are carved into provisional Buddhas, not true ones, due to the long causal relationship from past existences. So that's a specific reference to Japan and its long-standing reverence for the earth, trees, wood, lumber, wood. The history of Japanese architecture and woodworking is legendary. So that's a cultural statement, but it's a reverence for tradition, which on the one hand can be moving, but on the other hand is also the reason why there are so many alternate sects in Japan that are contrary to the true teachings of Shakyamuni. Practice and learning. 20 minutes, we've got time. I've written doctrines important to me in this letter, so please read carefully and take time to understand them all. Right? This is a very personal note to a fellow monk who has studied many of the same scholarship as Nichiren. This is a Tendai monk. And in Japan, Tendai Buddhism started a long descent from scholarship to political, egotistical motives, yes? And this Tendai monk, in studying Tendai Buddhism, sees the clarity of Nichiren's analysis of Shakyamuni's writings and the fallacies of the current teachers of the Tendai sect in Japan. So he leaves them and joins up with Nichiren, really trying to practice the same thing, the true teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, yeah? And so there's a kinship between Nichiren and Sarenbo. And so he's saying to him, this letter, I've shared some pretty meaty stuff, some personal insights into our scholarship, right? So this is my own enlightenment, path to enlightenment. So, don't just make it a casual read. Take time to try to dig into what I'm talking about, because you should know from your own scholarship, right? Have conviction in the great mandala Gohonzon. Understand the import of this tool I've created, this pictorial representation of Myoho Renge Kyo. In fact, it says Namu Myoho Renge Kyo down the center. That's the treasure tower. That's the meaning of this whole sutra. Don't expect to find Buddhahood in the mandala. The mandala is a representation. It's a tool to penetrate deeply your own mind and immediately awaken. The Honzon is in your mind. It's a portal to your own Buddha-ness, the Buddha-ness. The most venerable one in the entire world. This door. Earnestly endeavor to strengthen your conviction so that you may be rewarded with the protective powers of Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha of many truths, as he was eliciting earlier. The entire universe will become your manifestor. Strive to carry out the two ways of practice and learning. Without practice and learning, Buddhism will cease to exist. That's why what we're doing is so important. Endeavor yourself and cause others to practice these two ways of practice and learning, which stem from conviction, right? Dedication, resolve to maintain Buddha-ness. If possible, please spread even a word or phrase of the sutra to others. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Sincerely yours, Nichiren. On the 7th of the 5th month. And here's a postscript. And we'll finish with the postscript, obviously. I have written previously about doctrines that have been transmitted to me. Especially in this letter, I wrote of matters of utmost importance, right? This got pretty deep, this letter. To the point where I cautioned you in an earlier video, don't just share this with anyone. With other practitioners of Lotus Sutra, fine. But it's probably not the first thing you want to start with when you're introducing someone to Lotus Sutra Buddhism. Because, quite frankly, they're just not ready to hear it. Right? It's too big a shift. As Rodney Allen Rippey used to say, too big a eat. That's an old reference. Most of you probably won't get that. Is this due to an inexplicable bond between you and me in the past? Well, yeah, Nichiren is being obvious here, but what he's talking about isn't just their contemporary friendship, but as human beings, as sentient minds. We're all connected to the same stuff of the stardust of the universe, yeah? Or are we avatars of the four bodhisattvas, such as superior practice, leaders of bodhisattvas, as many as 60,000 times the number of the sands of the Ganges River, right? Are we connected through our study, our practice? And are we, in fact, realizing, instantiating manifestations of those often read personages of the expedient means of the teachings? Are we not? There must be a profound reason. I handed over to you all the doctrines important to my life. I might be a follower of those numerous bodhisattvas who emerged from the earth. This is because I chant Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, trying to lead men and women of Japan to Buddhahood. It is not stated in the Lotus Sutra, is it not stated in the Lotus Sutra, quote, emerging from the Earth chapter, quote, the first was called superior practice, so on and so forth. He was a guiding teacher. This is Nichiren's. This is the embodiment of Nichiren's life now. Because of your strong karmic relationship in past existences, you have become my disciple. Please be very careful dealing with this letter. I wrote the doctrines that I have awakened myself. I will stop writing now. Interesting. So you understand the nature of that caution. Nichiren has written this heartfelt note to his compatriot, somebody who's left the current Tendai school to follow Nichiren's teachings. Nichiren shares with him intimate realizations of his own. And then at the last moment he goes, this is between us. This is important for us both to know, but don't make this your leading argument when you're introducing others to Lotus Sutra Buddhism. It could be problematic. People have to get a bit of a footing in just the ideas of the Lotus Sutra and, in fact, the teachings of Shakyamuni. Properly get the order of things and their perspective adjusted so that they can come to these more profound insights in the practice. If you lead with them, you're likely to frighten a lot of people off, or worse yet, create obstacles for their acceptance, their learning, their understanding, right? Anyway, with all of that, once again, I must thank you so much. Like the video. It helps us with YouTube to get this information out to more people. Subscribe, certainly. That is a big help to the algorithms that be, right? I mean, we got to play the game if we're going to promulgate and change the world. Shift away from this evil, ugly, authoritarian, mindless rule, just as Nichiren is fighting it in Japan. Right? Appeal to people's good sense. But the first thing we have to do is make them realize they have good sense. They may think they have good sense, but it's based on lots of not good sense. So people can only come to that on their own terms, yeah? That's why we have to be careful how we promulgate. I don't mean lie. I just mean give people a chance to come to it on their own. Don't beat them over the head with it. They'll just run away. Wouldn't you? Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I have such deep appreciation for you guys, our patrons, right? Those who support this channel and all these endeavors financially. You guys are awesome. On Patreon, on paypal.me/SifuSylvain. Enjoy your practice. Revel in it. Be kind to yourself, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.